According to many, he had a gift from God. In Naples, he was treated like a saint. No one could match his talent. However, after his career, he hit rock bottom. Listen to the story of Diego Armando Maradona, the hand of God. Before we move on to the video, write in the comment which footballer you would like to hear about in the next video. If you are a football fan, watch this film until the end because it contains a lot of interesting facts, including his relationship with the Italian Mafia and numerous fights. Maradona was born on October 30th, 1960 in Buenos Aires. Like most legends of his time, he went through a very long and difficult road to the top. The Argentine had 7 siblings with whom he was raised in one of the poor districts of the big city. From an early age, he delighted with his football talent playing with his peers on the street. At the age of 8, his talent was noticed by scouts from Argentinos Juniors. He was accepted into the youth team of this club called Los Cebolitas, coached at the time by Francisco Cornejo. Maradona shone among his peers. Everyone was impressed by his technique and ball control. Los Cebolitas achieved an incredible series of 136 matches without defeat during Maradona's time there, and the young Argentine was their undisputed star. Local residents recalled that Maradona would entertain fans during breaks in matches by doing incredible tricks with the ball, keeping it in the air for several minutes. When he was 12, almost all of Argentina knew about his talent. He was invited to an interview for the Clarín newspaper in which he said, "My first dream is to play in the World Cup, and the second is to win the title for Argentina." For the next 3 years, he developed in Los Cebolitas. At the age of 15 years and 355 days, he made his debut in the senior team of Argentinos Juniors in a match against Talleres. Maradona entered the pitch in the second half, and although he did not score a goal, he showed his incredible talent. In one of the actions, he passed the ball between the legs of an experienced opponent, Juan Cabrera, which aroused great delight among the fans. After the match, Maradona said, "I couldn't believe I was playing in the first team. I just wanted to touch the ball, do something that would make people remember me." This took place on October 20th, 1976, and a few weeks later, he scored his first goal in professional football in a match against San Lorenzo del Plata. In 1977, his talent was noticed by the coach of the Argentine national team, Cesar Luis Menotti, who called up the then 16-year-old Maradona for a friendly match against Hungary. He then became the youngest debutant in the history of Argentina. A year later, the World Cup was held in Argentina, to which the Argentinos Juniors player surprisingly did not receive a call-up. The coach explained the lack of call-up with his young age and lack of experience. Despite this, Argentina won the World Cup without Maradona. Maradona was very determined to prove to Menotti that he had made a mistake by not calling him up. That season, he scored 22 goals and impressed with his dribbling and raids across half the pitch. Even then, the biggest clubs in Europe began to be interested in him. However, Argentinos still refused to sell their talent. A year later, Maradona, at the age of 18, became the top scorer in the Argentine League. In the same year, he went to the U20 World Cup, where he led Argentina to triumph, scoring 6 goals in the entire tournament, and he was definitely the best player in the final, where they defeated USSR 3-1. Maradona received the so-called Golden Ball for the best player of the tournament. In 1980, the Argentine midfielder did something incredible. He scored 43 goals in 45 matches, and for the second time in a row, he won the title of top scorer. Even then, the media began to compare him to the legendary Pelé. His skills were so great that his rivals had to foul him because they were unable to stop him. And it was really great luck that Maradona did not catch any injuries during that time. The next season was his last in Argentinos colors because he decided to go on loan to Boca Juniors for $4 million, which was a huge amount for those times. Despite offers from other clubs, he decided to transfer to Boca Juniors because it was a club he had supported since childhood, and his dream was to play at the legendary La Bombonera and become a legend of this club. Thousands of fans came to the stadium to welcome their new star. Maradona told them, "Today I fulfill my biggest dream. I play for Boca Juniors." On February 22nd, Maradona made his debut in a match against Talleres, scoring 2 goals and making the fans fall in love with him. A few weeks later came the Superclásico. Boca Juniors faced their biggest rivals, River Plate. The match ended with Boca winning 3-0 and Maradona scoring a wonderful goal, making the rivals' goalkeeper look ridiculous. Maradona had a key influence on the team's game this season. Along with Miguel Brindisi, they worked together brilliantly, which allowed them to win the Metropolitano tournament, which was the first major trophy in Maradona's career. The Argentine scored many wonderful goals this season, but the most memorable was his goal against Huracan when he ran halfway down the pitch and passed several opponents and sent the ball into the net. Maradona wanted to stay at Boca, but the club could not afford to buy him from Argentinos. In 1982, Maradona and Argentina went to the World Cup as defending champions. However, this tournament turned out to be a huge disappointment. In the match against Italy, Maradona was treated really brutally. He was fouled 23 times throughout the match, and Argentina lost the match. In order to get out of the group, Argentina had to beat Brazil, which they failed to do. The Brazilians used a similar tactic to the Italians and played brutally against Maradona. In the 85th minute, he couldn't stand what was happening and kicked João Batista in the stomach, for which he received a red card, and Argentina was eliminated from the tournament. Years later, Maradona recalled, "I was young and stupid. I couldn't stand all those fouls and provocations, so I lost control of myself. It was my mistake." After returning from the championship, the most expensive transfer in history took place at that time. Diego moved to FC Barcelona for $7.5 million. Unfortunately, it wasn't a successful time for him. Diego made his debut on September 4th, 1982, in a match against Valencia that was lost 2-1. The first season was mainly about health problems because in December he fell ill with hepatitis, which ruled him out of the game for a few months. In the spring, Maradona returned to the game and looked better and better with his help. Barcelona won the Copa del Rey, beating Real Madrid 2-1 in the final, and the League Cup, which they also won 2-1 against the team from Madrid. Maradona's performance in this match, played at the Santiago Bernabeu, was remembered as legendary. In one situation, the Argentine passed the goalkeeper and stopped in front of the empty goal waiting for the defender to try to catch up with him, then calmly headed the ball into the goal. After this match, he received a standing ovation from the Real Madrid fans. The 1983-1984 season was supposed to be the best for Maradona, but everything went wrong on September 24th when Andonigo Goicoechea brutally fouled Maradona, breaking his ankle, for which the newspapers called him the Butcher of Bilbao. Many people speculated that this was the end of Diego Maradona's career. However, after many months of rehabilitation, he returned to play and once again delighted everyone by scoring wonderful goals. A tragic situation occurred in 1984 when Barcelona faced Athletic Bilbao in the Copa del Rey final. Maradona felt that this was the moment of revenge on the Butcher of Bilbao, who received only a 10-game suspension for his foul. Throughout the match, Maradona was fouled and provoked by Bilbao players. When Barcelona lost the match 1-0, Diego completely lost control of himself. A fight broke out in which Maradona kicked his opponent in the chest, punched several players, and knocked 2 players to the ground. All this in front of the King of Spain and thousands of fans. This was the end of his adventure with FC Barcelona because he got into a huge conflict with the club's authorities. As he himself recalls in his autobiography, "I was furious. They were provoking me throughout the match, and then they were laughing in my face after the final whistle. I couldn't take it. That's how I lost control of myself. But that match was like a war. Goicoechea had broken my leg a few months earlier, and they kept destroying me. That was the end of my adventure with Barcelona. After that brawl, I knew I had to leave." Although Maradona admitted that he could have behaved better, he never regretted what he did. He said that he stood up for himself and his honor. In the summer of 1984, Diego set a new transfer record and moved to Napoli for $10.5 million. On July 5th, he was presented at the Stadio San Paolo, which was attended by 75,000 fans. Maradona said to them, "I want to become an idol for poor children in Naples." This was a reference to the situation that was taking place there at the time. The city was very poor, and Napoli had never won the Italian championship. Maradona was supposed to change that. The first season was mainly about building a new team that stayed in the league, taking 8th place. In 1986, Maradona went to one of the biggest World Cups in football history. In the quarterfinals, the most legendary situation in history took place. Argentina played with England. In the 51st minute, Maradona scored a goal with his hand, which was not noticed by the referee. And this goal was called the Hand of God. Maradona said after years, "A bit of Maradona's head, a bit of God's hand." But that was not the end. 4 minutes later, he also scored one of the most beautiful goals, which was called Goal of the Century. Maradona ran 60 meters with the ball, passed 5 Englishmen, and scored a miraculous goal. Even then, the fans treated Maradona like a saint. The commentator said, "Genius, genius, genius, glory to God. Thank God for football, for Maradona." Argentina finally won the World Cup, and Diego fulfilled his biggest dream. In the 1986-1987 season, something incredible happened. When Napoli, under Maradona's leadership, won the historic Italian championship, breaking the domination of Juventus and Inter, the whole city went crazy, and people wrote on the graves of their loved ones, "You don't know what you've lost." The next season, Napoli failed to win the championship, but Maradona became the top scorer with 15 goals. In 1889, Napoli won the first ever international trophy, the UEFA Cup, and a year later he won the second Italian championship. And Diego was the best player in Serie A. In Naples, they treated him practically like God. Unfortunately, that year also began his downfall. Argentina lost in the World Cup final to Germany, which was the beginning of his end. After the World Cup, Diego established close contact with the Neapolitan Mafia. As it turned out, the police had eavesdropped on Maradona's conversations about drugs and prostitutes. In 1991, he was suspended for 15 months because cocaine was detected in his anti-doping tests. This caused him to leave Naples. Despite this, Napoli's love for him did not die, and a few years later, the number 10 he played with was retired. Maradona was forced to transfer to Sevilla. Unfortunately, Diego was far from his optimal form there, and after a year, he changed clubs again. This time, he joined Newell's Old Boys, where he played only 5 matches due to health problems, being overweight, or arguments with coaches. Despite his poor performance, Maradona was called up to the 1994 World Cup. He wanted to show his talent one last time, which he initially managed to do, but after the second match, he was caught doping and thrown out of the World Cup. In 1995, he returned to Boca Juniors, where he ended his career after 2 years. He played his last match on October 25, 1997 against River Plate. He was 37 years old then. After ending his career, Maradona had serious problems with drugs. However, after a few years, he managed to get over them and tried his hand at coaching. However, he did not achieve any success. Diego Armando Maradona died on November 25, 2020, of a heart attack. Argentina declared national mourning, and millions of fans mourned his death. The most important thing his loved ones said was to remember him as he was on the pitch, not off it. This video cost me a lot of hours of work, so if you liked it, leave a subscription so you don't miss the next video.